Welcome to the Lights Out Podcast. This is Chris Lights Out Lytle, and this is our journey to document the history of mixed martial arts. I have brought with me my friend, the MMA detective Mike Davis, and together we will preserve the history and hear some great stories from the world in the era of the no-holds-barred. Thank you and enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have got a special 50 Fight Club member joining us all the way from Holland, Valentijn Overeem. Dude, we've been trying to piece this together for a minute. We finally made it happen. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So your career is very, very unique. You're from Holland in the beginnings, so there was a lot of moving parts, positioning, and then you were in the beginning days of Pride as well. Like it's a very special and different moment in the sport of mixed martial arts as we know it today.
Well, it was an interesting journey as well. So, I mean, there weren't a lot of people that were ahead of me at that time. And yeah, it was take it as you go kind of. So, I mean, you know.
All right. So let's start from the beginning. You're born in England. You got a Jamaican father and a Dutch mother.
Almost right. My dad's Jamaican, Dutch, but I was born in Holland. And then when I was about 2, we moved to England, and that's where my brother was born.
Okay, so how long are you in England before you moved back to Holland?
Oh, I think it was about 8.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my parents got divorced. We moved back to Holland, and then yeah.
When do you start your journey in mixed martial arts?
Well, I mean, when we still lived in England, I already did some judo and some karate. But I mean, at that age, how serious are you? It's just like, you know, seeing cartoons and then wanting to, you know, sort of learn some skills. And then that inspired me to you know, look into martial arts and then, you know.
Okay. Well, you wander into Chris Doleman's gym at a very early age. What was that experience like?
Well, I started kickboxing at, I would say, about 13. Yeah, 13-ish. And then I started the competitions when I was 15. Still amateur, of course.
Uh-huh.
It starts with local gyms against each other, and then it starts, you know, pick up a bit to like national. And then a friend of mine, he said, why don't you come with me to Amsterdam? And there's this gym, and this guy's called Chris Doleman. He's got all these world titles in different divisions and different sports. And they do wrestling, grappling.
Sambo, yeah.
You know, I'm always in for a challenge. So, I mean, so I went with him to Chris Doleman's gym. And, of course, they made me tap a million times. But I mean, I got a warm welcome just for trying and, you know, doing my best. And I think by also being a humble guy. And yeah, it was very interesting. I mean, it you know, I had a judo, like minor judo background. But of course, in the meanwhile, you forgot all the basics. So, but I did find it very interesting. So I asked, can I come more? And then I started doing like 2 times a week, like training like 1.5, 2 hours on top of my regular kickboxing training. And then, yeah, it just went from there. And then you're very happy when you come to the point that you don't have to tap that often anymore. So it's like first you tap like 20 times, and then it's down to 15 times, and then it's down to times, and then, you know, and then you're like, holy shit, I made someone else tap. So I mean, you know, and it just was fun. It was hard work, but it was a lot of fun.
That's good.
So,
that's good. At a really early age, 1995, you fought Remy Bonjasky in a kickboxing match.
Yep.
How old were you at that time?
I think I would say, well, I can do the math. 95?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a long time ago.
You're like 18, 19, right?
No, I would say 18.
18?
Yeah. Yeah.
Future 3-time world champion, Remy Bonjasky. How was that match at such an early age?
I mean, for me, it was like I would say the third, maybe fourth fight. Of course, there's always a bit of politics involved in every industry. So it was like it's his fifth or sixth fight. So he had, at that point he had a bit more experience than I had. But I mean, at that age, you just go in there and you try and do your best, and then I got a official warning for doing a hip throw, and yeah, and it was Muay Thai kickboxing. Okay, there were no elbows. I fought hip throw, and sweeps were allowed, but I got an official warning, and then he ended up winning the fight.
Yeah, I don't think he lost many fights like in his entire life.
No, he didn't. And I mean, he's a real sportsman, and we've always had a good amount of mutual respect towards each other and for accomplishments. And I mean, the thing is, I think if I would have stayed doing kickboxing, we would have eventually meet up again. But yeah, I went to the MMA, and he continued his kickboxing career, and I mean, well, I think he did a very good job. So
yeah. Well, you were Chris Doleman was the first non-Russian Sambo world champion, so you were in the right place.
Yeah, I think I was. Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate to have met that man, and having the opportunity to build a relationship in the gym and also outside of the gym. And I mean, seeing as my parents were divorced, he kind of took on like a father figure-ish type of character. That's what he became for me. And I mean, the coaching back then wasn't that great. I mean, he's pretty old. He was already pretty old by then. But as far as I mean, work ethics, making your hours, not doing shitty things on the street, just concentrate on gym time, and don't hang around with bad people and all kinds of stuff. I mean, he made me take my responsibility, and I'm very thankful for it.
At that point in Dutch kickboxing and mixed martial arts, hanging around with the bad people, bro, I can't believe there's not a Netflix special about everything that was taking place, including inside the gyms.
There were wild times sometimes, yeah. I mean, but especially back then, it was like hand in hand. Like, I mean, there's a lot of, what should I say, guys in certain environments that were out in the gym. And but I mean, in the gym itself, it was just train hard, work.
Business.
That was a big thing always. And yeah, I mean, I don't, to my knowledge, there was no business done in the gym as far as bullshit outside of the,
Right. Did you ever spar with Andre? Did you ever spar with Andre Brilleman?
No. He was gone before I would,
even started.
Yeah.
A few different places at the same time, I think, is where he was.
You work well for him, huh?
No, well, I mean, that's the game. Dutch style, the approach of sparring. How do you describe that as compared to other parts of the world?
Well, I think, for instance, when I was 19, I went to Japan, and I see the way they did sparring in Japan was like totally different than we would do it. I mean, they would like really low impact, a lot of time. That their training took for ages. It's like hours of training. Our sparring is different. It's just, warming up, getting the techniques done, and then gloves on and going for it. And I mean, yeah, we sparred hard.
Yeah.
That's always been a thing. And even to this day, I think in Holland, they spar hard. I mean, if I look at some guys in America now, there's a lot of hard sparring going in a lot of gyms now. So, I mean, it's gone overseas kind of ish. And So I do think that the Dutch fighting style has contributed to MMA and also has been implemented in other gyms as a way to go. And not the only way to go, but as a way to go.
So your first fight on record is February 18th, 1996, rings Holland, Tjerk Vermamen from Team Hardcore. What do you remember about your first fight ever?
I mean, before that, I did the kickboxing fights, and you didn't get any money for it. I mean, no glory. There was no like belt or nothing. It was just for pride and just having a goal to work towards, and then finally, having to get the experience of doing a fight. So this was the first fight that I got paid for, and I thought it was pretty good money. And I mean, of course, it was my first kind of MMA fight. So, I mean, it's exciting, and you're like totally hyped, and you've been working with these guys for at that ages. So you're really anxious to, go and prove yourself and make your teammates and your trainer happy and proud. So yeah, it was good.
And you got to finish too. In fact, I think you've only been out of the first round twice in your entire career, your about 100 fight career.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why. I don't think there were a lot of like wrestling or submission wrestling or grappling schools in Holland in the beginning. And I, by chance got to train with one of the best. So, I was kind of a bit ahead of time. So there were a lot of guys that had the kickboxing background, but they didn't have not a lot of skills on the ground. So, and because we always had to work very hard so Amsterdam is pretty much in the center of Holland. And a lot of guys came from just outside of Amsterdam to train there at that gym as well. I mean, from Utrecht, from Den Bosch, Bas Rutten even came to train sometimes, So, I mean, there was a lot of experience going around in that gym. So I was very fortunate to be able to train with these guys and then, make it count in the fights. So, I knew that they could fight standing up and I would just take them down. And then, so with the Tjerk guy, I mean, I could get a rear naked choke. So,
yeah, you got a rear naked choke. Chris Doleman is also the promoter. That helps.
That does help, but it's a lot of pressure as well. I mean,
oh yeah,
you don't want to embarrass him. I mean, a man with that amount of respect and dedication to, all kinds of sports and all those accomplishments that he's made. I mean, I was very proud to have him in my corner, but at the same time, you don't want to screw up.
When do you first meet Dirty Bob Schrijber?
Oh, I got to meet Bob when I was kickboxing already. So that was like, I think I was like 17 or maybe just 18. And yeah, he was a crazy guy, but a very, very humble guy, really. I mean, we've all seen his fights, crazy, but he was very humble and very respectful, and had a lot of. He did the training tapes with what's his name?
Remco?
No. Not Ramon Dekker, but what's his name? Oh, I'll get back to it in a minute.
Okay, that's good. What about Gerard Gordeau?
Yeah, I went to Japan with him a couple of times. I mean, he come from Den Haag, like originally a karate guy. I mean, as hard as nails. And yeah, like I said, I mean, I got to know him, got to meet him, get to know him. A very interesting guy, different philosophy. He had some very good contacts in Japan also, but very down to earth, very honest and open, and just like a tough guy, just a really tough guy, but a nice guy.
I mean, that's exactly the opposite of what people watching him would say. In fact, like if you created a list of dirty fighters, Naruse, Dirty Bob Schrijber, Gordeau, I mean, it's Yvel. Like there's a lot of Dutch presence on that list. Where does that come from?
I mean, I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I think kickboxing is been well, it's not like a national sport, but it is a national sport, like a national underground sport. So, I mean, for guys growing up in tough neighborhoods or problem homes, or, I mean, whatever, I mean, this is what you would do. You would go to the gym to learn some skills and then be able to protect yourself or the people that you love. And, I mean, well, not everybody had the same values and the same sense in what to protect or to, so, I mean, but in the end of the day, I mean, I think that everybody did learn some decent amount of respect in the gym. And then, in the fights. And then, I mean, there's a lot of fights going on in Holland, a lot of fighting events. So, you bump into each other, like back then, like every month, so to speak, or every 2 months, there's a fighting event. I mean, Holland is a small country, so there's a lot of guys that would attend or have friends fighting or family fighting. So you would, and then there's always like this guy I know or I respect and get to know, and and this guy I get to know and I just hate his guts, and then and then there's just some shit talking going around, of course, and then that would be an interesting fight, of course, because this one's from the north of Holland and this one's from the south of Holland, and then so yeah, it was interesting.
So you went to Japan with Gordeau after his Yuki Nakai incident.
Mm-hmm.
And when we interviewed Gordeau, we asked him, was there repercussions for that? Because he returned to Japan afterward. Mm-hmm. And he just blank stare. Yes, I don't want to talk about it. What was the Japanese Gordeau relationship like from your perspective?
I mean, I was a young guy, so I didn't totally understand all that was going on. I was just proud to be there with him and soaking up his wisdom, kind of ish, and I mean, were a lot of things that, I mean, not everything was discussed with the younger generation fighters. Of course, there's a lot of politics and things going on that's above your head, and I mean, it was very interesting as is. So it's like, yeah, I know something's going on, but I'm not, out of respect, I'm not gonna act. I'm not gonna, it's fine. You guys just take care of it. I mean, you know your place in the hierarchy. So, I mean, it's who am I to butt it in my nose at that age with those guys? I mean, it's like, yeah, don't even go there. I'm fine here. Just So
that's survival. That's survival instinct. Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. No, it's true. All right. So February was your first fight. June 15th, 1996, Fight Gala. Joan Waringa out of Rock Gym was your second fight. So you really kind of, once you got going, you were really trying to fight as often as possible.
I mean, if I didn't have an injury, you just want to get the experience done, and I mean, if you look at how now you have these fighter houses and these guys get good sponsors, and I mean, there's a lot of shit that's taken care of, but back then, I mean, you're training all the time, but you're not making any money. You had to invest a lot of. So, I mean, if you could make some money, that would be wonderful. So, yeah, you needed to fight like whenever and take fights whenever, just to make some money. I mean, the money was like, if compared to now, it's like, it's shit. But then on the other hand, the fighters were genuinely interested in fighting.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the money. It was just like, you're investing so much time and energy and love and blood, sweat, and tears into this. So, I mean, it's also nice that you can make a living out of it, So, but I've always had to, well, not always had to, but at that point I was like also working as a bouncer,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a kind of a story that I haven't found it discussed anywhere where you and your brother got into a bar fight with other bouncers, where your
Yeah.
brother got an infection in his hand from teeth being embedded in them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm. It's not a lot of times that you could go out, and party, and because he or I, had fights and but every now and then we would like try to relax a bit and go out, and then not like do crazy, but and then we were at this place with some girls, and he had to go to the toilet, and he didn't have any change, so he asked the lady, "Is it okay if I come back and give you the money, the change?" And she said, "Yeah, that's fine." And then the security guys, no, you have to pay now, And I mean, he was already making some decent money, so he just had some major money, just big bills. So, he walks towards me, and this bouncer is like in his neck, and he's asking, "Hey, do you have some money for the?" And I say, "Yeah, but what's the problem with this guy?" So that's how it started. And then I'm like, I'll pay for it, no problem. So I wanted to give the money, and he said, "Yeah, no, we're gonna kick him out now." And then I said, "Yeah, I don't think so." And then, well, you guess how they. And then he's like in on the radio, like, "Yeah, can you send some guys?" And then it just escalated from there. It was stupid. But I don't really think we had a choice, to be honest. I mean, there's just one of these, like a group of bouncers, two of these assholes trying to pick a fight, and then like luring the rest of his colleagues into the fight for backup, and then it just, it was stupid.
Sometimes it's the principle.
Yeah, well, I mean, like if me or my brother would ever like not want to spend like $2 on going to the toilet. I mean, we were about to leave anyway. I mean, that's the crazy part. I mean, if the bouncer wasn't there, we would have been gone in not even 5 minutes. So I mean, it's just really stupid. But now this guy's saying, "Yeah, we're gonna kick him out." I'm like, "No, we're not." So yeah.
That's a pretty brave bouncer.
Well, I some people are just a bit stupid.
Yeah, the
Because
Overeem brothers.
I mean, I think you're brave when something has to be done and you do it. And I mean, there's a certain amount of risk involved in doing what you have to do, and you just you don't hesitate, you just do what has to be done. But if you're taking risk for no reason, just to prove a point or to,
stupid.
That's just dumb. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
But I mean, they found out, and the funny part is, I mean, we had to go arrested by the police and had to go to jail for a couple of days, and then eventually we had to go to court, and then the owner of this place, because we came there like we've been there more often.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, these guys, like, I see them every couple of months, and they come and they're always relaxed. They never get into fights. They're very respectful. They give tips, and they don't get wasted." And so this is in the owner's statement towards the police. So I mean, this guy was. I mean, these two guys were fired as well afterwards. I mean, there's some guys that weren't fired because they tried to help out their colleagues, and they just got mixed up into the fight. But I mean, these two that instigated the fight, they got fired. So
yeah,
and we got. I mean, we got acquitted. So there was no.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So in the progression of your career, there's certain steps that need to take place. An international opponent is something that it's incredibly important to have. Your first one was February 2nd, 1997. Masayuki Naruse, the berserker, all the way from Japan. That's a really good fight for you.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that big of a guy, but they like a little bit short, but like wide and I mean, I didn't have a lot of experience fighting these Japanese guys, and they were like just shooting and taking guys to the ground like whenever. So this is also what happened in this fight. I mean, as until now, I was the one kind of taking guys to the ground and doing my thing. and it was with sweeps or like hip throws or whatever. But these guys, they just shoot, and then so he was very good in shooting. I lay on my back about maybe even 10 times or so during the fight. So after this fight, I mean, my ground game was pretty decent. My stand up was okay, but just the transitioning from the way they did it, I didn't have any experience in that. That's not what we trained in our gym back in that day. So when we got back, I said, yeah, this is a problem for me. I mean, and then Chris said, okay, you need to go to Utrecht and then train with Benny Stelter. And this is like this wrestling guy, like freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling. And then I just train my ass off. These guys, big guys, small guys, just shooting and shooting and shooting. I mean, just continuously shooting and controlling. So that's where I, tried to up my game to the point that I could level it up to the point that I couldn't be taken down that easy anymore. So
That's good. That's good. You won by cut. And were you a big ticket seller? Because on your fourth fight, your co-main event against Cease Bezems, you had to sell a lot of tickets, man. You had to.
I mean, it wasn't just me, but I think, MMA was something new back then, and it just was a bit more spectacular. And I think because it was new, there were a lot of people that were very interested in what this was, and so I mean, yeah, we did sell some tickets. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, yeah. And your next fight, Frank Shamrock and Pete Williams were on the same card, so you actually got to meet the Lions Den guys for the first time.
And that was crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've met all these guys when they were still competing, and I mean, it was really amazing because you're looking at these cage fights, and you're like, whoa, this is a fucking animal, and this is a beast, and I mean, this is, and then you meet them in real, and they do have those personalities, but it's totally different from when, there's a lot of respect, like I said before. There's, they're always willing to give some tips and give some advice, and yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, you Wataru Sakata, you lost by ankle lock in that fight. But your next bout, Chris Haseman, he is a pioneer from Australia, the Hammer. Dude, this guy, he has fought a who's who, and that is your next opponent. The first time, probably one of two times, you actually made it out of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, I already knew him, and we connected really in a good way. So I didn't really like to fight him because, we had a good connection. But they're like, yeah, but it's only a fight and this and that. And I'm, okay, whatever. So then we have this fight. And this guy was fucking tough. I can't believe I've ever been as tired as that I was in that fight. It was standing up, going back to the ground, standing back up. And I was like arm barring, ankle locks, leg locks. I did whatever, and he just didn't tap. And at one point I was like thinking, can you even hurt this person? Because he just wouldn't give up. And then, yeah, he took me to the second round for the first time. Yeah.
That night, Gilbert Yvel fought Dirty Bob Schrijber.
Yeah, that was
two of the dirtiest guys ever in a sport of mixed martial arts. Like, the matchmaker was trying to get a riot going. That's what it looked like to me based on that fight.
I've trained with Gilbert Yvel. I haven't trained with Bob, but I knew Bob. And it was like older generation, younger generation, because Gilbert is the same age I was, so we were both upcoming guys. And yeah, it was a crazy fight. I remember I was really, really tired from the fight, and I had an injury as well. But I just had to watch this fight, and I'm glad I did. I think I would have missed a Dutch historic fight if I didn't.
It was
crazy. They're like, wow.
When we talked to Gilbert about this fight, he said, well, first, Bob was on drugs. And like when you see Bob exiting the locker room, his eyes are just, they're coming out of his head and he's trying to figure out where he's at. Dude, it's awesome. It's awesome. He was on something. Dexter Casey's your next one. You then main event against Gilbert Yvel. Gilbert Yvel was with Golden Glory Amsterdam with Lucian Carbon, 50 world champions, Raymond Deckers being one of them. But then he got kicked out and he went to Vo's gym, and then you wind up over at Golden Glory. It's almost as if a retribution match between with Golden Glory and the two of you.
Well, the Dexter Casey was in England, right?
This is Rings Holland.
Yeah. And as far as, I mean, when Golden Glory started, I already had, by now I had a minor sponsor, and this was the owner of Golden Glory. The founder of Golden Glory, Ron. And but I had to go into jail, unfortunately, for a couple of months, like 8. So and in this time he founded Golden Glory. So when I came out of jail, he already had Gilbert and some other guys, already. And then of course I also joined the club, and we took it from there. And I mean, it's unfortunate all the shit that's happened, because I do think that the way his vision of how it should have been in the fighting industry was the right vision. He was willing to put a lot of money into it without getting that much money out of it. I mean, it's kind of the same as UFC. You're trying to build a company and you're just making debt and like pouring it, and it's like a bottomless pit. And he was willing to do so, but of course the money had to come from somewhere, right? And it
happens. Things happen. Things happen.
Yes. Happen. So, yeah.
So, do you remember when you first heard of the car bomb that almost killed Ron Nyquist?
Yeah, because I mean that night we all went out, and then it's so Ron had this gym, Megasport, and it was in Breda, and I mean this is like a multi-story gym facility, like never seen before. And a swimming pool, sauna, for the women stuff. It was crazy. Especially, to be honest, I don't really think they have it now. Dick Frey has a big gym now, but you couldn't compare it to that one. That was like everything, multi-million-dollar investment.
Wow.
And but anyway, we went out, and then he borrowed a car from one of the guys and co-owner, so to speak. And then he came back, and then he stepped into the car, and then luckily he didn't close the door, and he started the car, and then it blew up. So he was very fortunate not to have closed that door. And the funny thing is, there's like, I would say 50 yards, 60 yards from there, there's a police station. So it was very bold as well. Yeah.
Rob and Eric Dreesen were later killed by Ron, the twin brothers.
Yeah, well, it's just what I heard is that he kind of heard that they were behind that bombing. So then on one day he went there, and then he shot him in the head, both of them. Yeah.
Man, he didn't send somebody else to handle his business. He did it on his own. You got to respect that. Whether you agree with what took place or not, you have to respect that. So,
yeah, yes, you do. Yes, you do. But it wasn't. It's just one of those things that you don't know the fine details. You just hearsay and what goes around. So how that exactly went, I'm not sure. But he did. That's without a doubt.
Bas Boon, what was your relationship like with him?
Well, Ron had to go to jail I mean, they sentenced him 20 years. So I mean, he wasn't coming back anytime soon. And Bas was already in the management of Golden Glory, and yeah, he took over. But I mean, he's a selfish piece of shit, and you know, he did a lot of stuff to make himself richer off of the fighters. So no, he had good connections, but he had a bad motivation in the sense of, like, you know, willing to sacrifice certain fighters for his own benefit. And that was exactly the opposite of what Ron was doing. I mean, Ron was willing to sacrifice his own money to make a fighter big. So let's say one of the guys would fight in wherever, let's say, for instance, it didn't happen, but let's say in America, and they would lose the fight in America, then he would have we would do a Golden Glory or Too Hot to Handle, and then he would invite that same guy to do a rematch. You know, so that, I mean, it would be interesting for also, to, yeah, you could get your revenge, so to speak, and you know, make amends, kind of ish. So he gave a lot of opportunity for us to gain internationally and become more, and he did do very, very good contract negotiations for us back in the time. Bas Boon did do good negotiations, but then there was like a secondary contract that what he benefited from. So I mean, he tried to rip off my brother for like 100 grand or so. So I mean, or maybe even more. So
Yeah, I've heard that. Did you have a good relationship with Yon Plass?
I knew him, but I wasn't, you know, that's about it. It wasn't like,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there were so many people involved that they did incredible things for certain people, did good and both bad, you know, for themselves. And it's a very small community. And when you were fighting, is when all of this shit was going on. It's
yeah,
fucking crazy, dude.
I mean, a lot of shit happened, and I mean, I remember that we had this Gold Glory Too Hot to Handle event in Amsterdam, and then there was like this police checkpoint, and every car got strip searched. I mean, everybody got searched like crazy. I mean, we have the manager of Heineken beer that's like having to take off his Rolex, and they're like having to explain to the tax agents where he got that watch for. I mean, everybody got screened, and I mean, so that wasn't a good idea. So that was a one-time event, because I mean, it got postponed, and I mean, it started like 3 hours later than it should have because of all this bullshit. So I mean, the police kind of sabotaged that event. So that was a good idea. In Rotterdam, it was better for us because the police didn't give us that much of a hard time. They did what they had to do in a responsible way, so to speak. But yeah, there was a lot of shit going on. But I mean, you should imagine I'm this young kid that's, you know, I'm hearing all these stories, but I'm wanting to, I want to train, you know. So I'm just training, working in the weekends, training, and of course you get bits and pieces of the puzzle. But I never found it my place to, like, you know, see how things are. But I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Did you ever get approached by Freek Hamaker about working security?
I mean, you get approached by a lot of people to you know,
Okay.
do certain stuff, but I mean, it was the same when I was with Ron, and it was the same when I was with um, Chris Doleman. They prevented me of, you know, doing stupid stuff. They're like, listen, you can. I mean, it's possible that you go and you're gonna make some money, but is this what you want in life, or is this what you trained for all this time? Is this where you went through these injuries and the pain and they always told me, I mean, if you continue on this path, you might be able to make a decent amount of money in the sport.
Yeah.
Without, you know, going to jail and all the kind of shit. So make up your mind for yourself. But this is our advice. And I think it was smart advice, and I listened to them, and I didn't get involved in all the crazy. Okay, on occasion you would do something stupid, but I mean not like big league bullshit. I mean, so yeah, they kept me grounded, and I'm very, very, very thankful for it, because I mean, if you see the amount of guys that aren't here anymore or are in prison, I mean, it's
Dude, it's incredible. Like, if you showed Gerard Gordeau a picture of everybody that he grew up with and kind of came along with, like 95% of them are dead. And like Dirty Bob Schrijber too. See, you say the police give you guys trouble. The Bulldog Hash House was the first people to say, we're selling marijuana, we're selling cocaine, do something about it.
Yeah.
Dirty Bob Schrijber was the guy that they put on the street.
Yeah.
So like the police
together with Hans Nijmen.
Yeah.
But I mean, Hans was a good guy as well. I mean, he was really honest, and I mean, they killed him. They killed him too. So I mean, there's a lot of people that were on the hit list and escaped. There's a lot of people that didn't. I mean, recently I looked on Facebook, and I saw the son of Nordin Benzala. That was a boxer back in the day. I mean, he was really good. And that was a guy that I trained with when I was training with Dick Vrij and Hans Nijmen in Purmerend. And that was the Bulldog kind of clan, so to speak. And I mean, he would like outrun the Dutch commandos on the track. That's how good. I'm good.
Legit.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was, but they killed him too. So I mean, yeah, it was. There's always boss above boss, and I mean, for me, it just seemed like a good idea. I mean, I've always had the feeling of having a responsibility of my brother as well. Yeah. So I mean, and if something were to happen with me, who would do it? My mom? No. So it's and I think you can compare it to the Diaz brothers, a kind of ish. Having to take care of each other, being in a fucked up environment, and just doing your time in the gym, and so
yeah, no, I agree with that. Like in fact, like in terms of like notorious brothers, I mean, you guys are in that top three, like the Emelianenko brothers, the Overeem brothers, like the Diaz brothers. You guys are
Nogueira.
Yeah, Nogueira brothers.
To make it tough.
That's a tough crew right there, man. Like all of those, like a lot of broken furniture in the house growing up, for sure.
And it's funny because I mean, who is there now that has taken over that? I mean, I think it was kind of the four of us, and and I mean, it wasn't like just for a moment. I think we were there for quite some time, but there hasn't been there's not been two sibling brothers or two brothers that have taken over and taken our place. I mean, and that's kind of crazy, right?
You guys were fighters. Like, you want to fight here in the ring, in the alley, that was cool. Now it's like point fighting. Like if I just position this way or that way, it's a sport where you guys didn't treat it like a sport. You treated it like life or death.
I mean, but it has to do with the way you grew up. I mean, I think having no dad around, having to take care of your own shit. I mean, when we grew up, there were no phones. I mean, there was no Facebook. I mean, your word was your word. I mean, if you wasn't there on time, you would be disciplined or cut out, or So I mean, you didn't have a lot to go on, and I think that kind of responsibility did us good. I think nowadays with the woke bullshit going on, and people are like, I have an appointment with you, and I'm just last minute texting you. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. Or I mean, back in that time, that didn't work. That wouldn't work for you. You would build up a bad reputation, and I mean, So I think the mentality was different, and I mean, you can see with the Jake Paul, and I mean, it's all good and nice,
The gimmick.
but it's a money thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no like communication about bending the rules or excluding this. You went to Pride, and that was the Pride rules. No discussion. If it was the rings or UFC, I mean, you if you fight as is.
Yeah.
Not like no knees on the ground, knees on the ground. I mean, no, that's not how it worked.
Yeah.
So
and
now you see that even with the McGregor and let's go boxing fight. I mean, they didn't get they gave him an 8 count and the fight was done.
Yeah.
When does that happen in boxing?
No.
And he made a shitload of money for it.
50 million.
I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, if you sell the tickets, you're good for the money, but do the rules as is. Don't. I mean, because he would have got slaughtered if they continued that fight.
Yeah.
And he did a good job. I mean, world champion boxing since he was a kid. He did a fantastic job.
Mayweather.
But it got to get the win the way he deserved, which paved the way for different kind of that sort of fights.
It's like Usyk versus Fury. Usyk is ready to knock Fury out. The referee in the middle of the barrage, stop, standing 8 count. No. You let Usyk finish the fight. That is why he trained. It's bullshit. That's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
All right, so go ahead.
No. I mean, that's just the way it evolved. And I mean, if I look at my own country, we still have kickboxing events, but we almost don't have any MMA events. I mean, there's a lot of guys doing grappling, doing a good job. I mean, Musashi has his own gym as well. I mean, there's a lot of good guys coming from his gym, but there's no platform for guys to fight MMA fights in a decent way over here. It's just local things. And I think it's a very big wasted opportunity that no one continued Golden Glory the way it should have been with the MMA. I mean, you could have done the MMA and kickboxing like one. But I mean, this is the choice they made. So yeah. But I mean, if I could do anything, I would have changed it to the point that, it would have been a beautiful legacy for all the guys that you just mentioned that are from Holland to maybe we should still do it actually.
Yeah.
A new event that has a certain name and that we're all stockholders and all can contribute, and like a Hall of Fame organization, because we don't have a Hall of Fame. I mean, we have so much good fighters well known over the world, but there's no Hall of Fame in Holland. It's crazy.
I work for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. I'm waiting for the Dutch to come. When the Dutch heavyweights start making their way to Bare Knuckle, brother, you guys are about to see levels. There's levels of the game. Bare Knuckle Fighting is built for the Dutch kickboxing scene.
How is it with the hand injuries with those guys?
Okay, so this is generally what happens. We get a lot of stitches. Like we average over 100 stitches per event, but we usually average only one concussion. So we get almost no concussions, but a lot of stitches.
Yeah. Well, it's understandable. I mean, you get cut pretty quick, But how is it as far as hand injuries, like broken fingers?
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
No?
Okay. It's surprising. Surprising it's not that bad.
So the thing is, I think if you train for it, your bones just densen up. And I mean, you know.
You always hear, oh, I dip my hands in gas. Oh, I hit like bricks. Oh, I hit like hammers. These guys are all actually doing those techniques, and they've got a very good, they're getting good response from what it is they're doing. It's all those 1920s, 1910 type techniques. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. At one point in your career, in the early times, okay, you lose to Gilbert Yvel because of shoulder injury. Kiyoshi Tamura, he got you with an armbar. And then Yamamoto, you lose by another armbar. You got 3 in a row. Where are you mentally at this point in your career? Because what you did afterward is pretty incredible.
I mean, after losing a fight, you feel like shit. I mean, after the Gilbert fight, I mean, he covered himself in oil because that was one of the tactics from the gym of Lucien Cabin. They would like massage the oil into you, then pat you down, and then when you started sweating in the ring, it will all come out.
Right out.
Yeah. This, of course, happened in the fight. I mean, you can imagine I'm sitting on top of him, not being able to move my left arm anymore because it's dislocated and the tendons are gone. And and then they give the fight to him. I don't know. I think it's kind of strange because I'm in full mount, but I just the arm doesn't work. So, but anyway, so I need to get an operation. My arm's fucked up. I go to Belgium, get the surgery done, have like 8 months, 9 months of recovery, and then first you think you're kind of invincible, and now you aren't, and you found out in a pretty bad way, to the point that you needed the surgery and like a double operation and all the kind of stuff, and so you have to build all the way from scratch. So that kind of, and then I fight. My first fight after that, of course, this guy is like punching my shoulder that just had the surgery. Yeah, it's a Japanese guy. They're tough.
Tamamura.
I'm like, oh, so I'm not like 100% sure at that point. So I'm like thinking like, oh no, am I gonna have to go through this again? Is he gonna, So my head was at a different place. And I mean, all the credit to him. I mean, I would have maybe done the same thing. So I mean, you shouldn't take a fight if you're not ready for it. And I felt ready, but obviously I wasn't totally ready. Not mentally. Physically I was, but mentally I wasn't. So after this fight, you're like back to the drawing board, thinking on, okay, getting into better shape. But you've been out of the game for so long that you're missing your rhythm. So, then you lose another one and you're like, fuck, is this really something for me? And then, but you love the training. You love the team that you train with. So, I mean, it's like when I wouldn't come to the gym for a couple of days, the guys were like, yeah, where are you at? Yeah, but you have to come and train because, we learned some new stuff. So, I mean, the guys, they take you through it, and then you just start, and then you're enjoying yourself again. And then it just, you just get ready. You just get back ready. Yeah. And after that, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got
like an 11 fight win streak or so.
Dude, it's nuts. Yeah. Like you lose to Nogueira by key lock. It's your first time fighting on the same card as your brother, which that's not easy.
No, it wasn't easy. Fuck. I was more concerned about him than I was concerned about myself.
And Nogueira is a bad motherfucker, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you're worried about him, and you got a bad motherfucker in front of
you. Yeah.
What was it like negotiating with Pride as compared to Rings?
Well, I mean, with the Rings organization, I mean, Chris Doleman already had a very, very big relationship with this organization that went back for God knows how long. So, I think his name was Yamamoto.
That's and I mean, that's one of your opponents.
But that was
there's Kanehara, Yamamoto, Tamura.
Yeah. Well, I mean the CEO.
Maeda.
They were like, I'm not saying friends, but like good business partners. So yeah, that was a totally different relationship. I do think I was, you know, it was like if you fight this guy and you win this fight, you get a world title fight, and then I win the fight, so I'm supposed to go against the world champion, and then of course the world champion fights someone else, he loses the title, and then I fight Tamura, that was the world champion back then, and then but he didn't have the title, so I mean, you know, that kind of shit. But I mean, I think that happens with every organization.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, well, as far as Pride, with Pride, the negotiation went through Bas Boon. So I had nothing to do with the negotiation at all. You know, it's just this is the money you can make. If you fight, you get this. If you win, you get this. And so and that was because by now we went from rings to Pride, and Golden Glory did the management.
Yeah. Yeah. That question was from Ryan Van Doom, a poster that formerly of mixedmartialarts.com.
Yeah.
Your first fight in Russia, was it a lot different than Japan? And I mean, obviously it's different than Holland. What was your takeaway from your first bout in Russia? Ahmed Labasanov.
I mean, it's kind of like in the movies, you know. I mean, you go somewhere, these guys don't talk a lot. They're just like, you know, they say nothing more than they have to say, and it's they live minimalistically. There's no, well, of course, the organization has money because of, you know,
What they
their
do.
background. Of course, yeah, exactly, the business that they run. But I mean, the fighters are just humble guys from different villages or cities, and just it's the same as um, I mean, have you ever seen a Russian that, I mean, talks a lot and talks a lot of bullshit? They're all like
No.
ground guys. They're like all men. They don't need to. I mean, Kamzat is kind of like one of the first that's like starting to talk shit. But I mean,
It's very little.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you look at Magomedov, I mean, these guys, it's just they're just taking care of business.
Okay.
So
Let me
it's all
rephrase it.
cars and stuff. And I mean, you land in Moscow and then you drive to the city and there's like 50 hookers on the side of the street. I mean, it's like crazy. You're like, what, you know? Then these guys from the organization, they take you to go out. You go out, you go to this like sauna. There's all this Russian mafia kind of guys, you know. Then, I mean, I can remember one of them got killed and they did this like memorial thing. And there's like one, like, I would say like 8, 9 feet of table with all the fighters. Then there's like 8, 9 feet of all these gangster guys, and then there's like all their like their right hands, and then one is this and one is that, and then we're having this like incredible like meal with whatever you want. And I'm like, fuck, this is. I mean, this is a movie. I mean, this is
Yeah.
not. This isn't real. And then in that same building, there's like a whorehouse, and then a club, and then a casino, and I mean, the guys get pulled over by the cops, and they're like, they get angry at the cops, and the cops are like, sorry, and then you get back in the car. There's AK-47s back in the trunk. I mean, I remember one time my brother, he lost his plane ticket, and we got out of the airport, and this guy just starts to talk to this like customs dude, and they don't even check him. They just send him straight to the plane. He didn't need to get a new ticket, and we take off. I mean, you know, everything is in cash. There's no like bank transfer, nothing. No, it's just these suitcases full of money, and they just stack them to the point where, and I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
You hope you don't get checked when you
I,
land. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, having your own security in front of the hotel. I mean, you know, like armed security. So I mean, I've been to places in Russia, and I looked on in a map, and the place didn't even exist on the map. I mean, I've been somewhere that's like some military industrial city or so that's not non-existent. I mean, you know, if these people want you to disappear, there's no country in the world that will ever find you again. You know,
No.
so it's very interesting, but it makes you feel pretty small as well. I mean, Russia is a very, very, very big country, and I have to say, I've always been treated with nothing more than respect. Nothing more than respect. So I mean, yeah, I do have a love for these people.
For sure.
It's unfortunately happening now, but I do have a very yeah, I do. I believe I do have a very good connection with the Russian people, and I mean, like I said, they've always been cheering. I mean, you're an outsider, you're not from their country, but they've always had a big amount of respect for the fact that you're coming to entertain them with your skills.
Yeah.
You know, win or lose, they just appreciate you, you know, making a good fight. So I mean, there's a lot of sportsmanship and a lot of real men, and yeah, it was good.
So when I describe you to people, forget fighting. You're talking about a guy that fought and dealt with the Dutch mafia, the Japanese Yakuza, and the Russian mafia, and you excelled in those circles without getting compromised.
Yeah, then I would have to say that's because we combined had a passion for the sport and just had different backgrounds. And I mean, if you look in America now, I think MMA gets, I mean, the guys made it possible to, like Trump, for instance, you know, if you see what Dana White said about Trump, they didn't have any locations anymore. And Trump said, you know what, do it in my casino. So they got the opportunity to, you know, go from underground to above ground and legalize the sport, so to speak, and professionalize the sport and make it grow. And I don't think we have the possibility here in Holland. And as far as Russia goes, I think you know, fighting is a national. I mean, everybody does something over there. I mean, you know, you're not a man if you don't wrestle, kickbox, karate, or you know, sambo or judo or Greco-Roman. I mean, everybody does something over there. And I think as far as Japan goes, I mean, Japan is a bit different, but also fighting is. I mean, that also goes back to way back in history, you know. So, but it's a different culture, though.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more mysterious and mystical, you know. But I mean, I think it's been very interesting to see all these places in the world and all these cultures and people and you know, always having been welcomed to all these countries. And in the end of the day, almost getting more respect in other countries than I have over here, almost.
The Dutch do not support their people. It's the craziest thing, man. It is. You guys have got some of the most incredible accomplishments in combat sports ever. And when you look at like the social media of those big stars, the overwhelming majority of the people that are supporting them, it's from out of the country.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Why?
Because I think the Dutch politics, they associate fighting. I mean, what happened is back in that time, what we, you know, Andre Brilleman and you know, there was a lot of shit going on, and I think the police and the politics and they just got fed up with it and just decided, you know, we have to smash this, and we need to. So the fighters, I mean, if you look at the sponsors back in the day, it was like this sex club, that coffee shop, that, you know, it never got the opportunity to excel from where it came from, and that, I think that's a pity.
Yeah, like Hank DeVries. But those were the people putting money into it. Nobody else would have. Nobody else would have.
No, they didn't. They didn't. But I mean, if you look at Amsterdam now, they're like cutting back on the coffee shops. They're trying. I mean, Amsterdam is like a world city, I would say. Everybody kind of knows where it is, and they want it. And it's. I mean, you could say it's not Las Vegas, but I mean, it has a reputation as, for certain things. And now they're trying to take away the foundation on which Amsterdam is built and trying to give it a new name, kind of ish, by cutting back on coffee shop, making it very expensive, parking is shit. I mean, it's not the same anymore.
It's
And
kind
they're
of everywhere.
choosing a left woke approach to the future of Holland.
It's everywhere. It's all over the world, man. Yeah, it's like you get shamed for being a man. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird.
So that's why Trump has to. He needs.
Who knows? Who the fuck knows, man? Who knows? Who knows? I don't even know, man. Did you get along with Simon Rutz?
I was pretty good with him. Yeah, because I mean, he promoted my second fight with Gilbert, of course.
Yeah,
and so he's like, I mean, I never felt that was a finished fight. I mean, we had to, and it took quite some years. I mean, yeah, because the thing is this: after that first fight, because we've trained together, and like Chris Haseman, before the fight, after the fight, we were the same towards respect and everything as after the fight. I was happy that I won that fight, but I didn't like shove it in his face and talk shit, and but I've trained with Gilbert. I mean, we were the same age. We've trained for, I know, God knows how long. And then you're winning the fight. You're hearing that I got injured, not from something you did, but by falling on my shoulder because of the oil shit. And then you can't have the decency to like send me, hey, bro, I wish you luck with your injury or nothing, and then still talk shit. So, I mean, this wasn't finished. So then, of course, Simon Rutz gets the story, and he's like, oh, yeah, this should be an interesting fight. So he's like, okay.
It defined the face of Dutch mixed martial arts. Like, you two were the biggest names in the entire country, in my opinion, at this time.
At the time, yeah. So he's like, yeah, are you interested in fighting Gilbert? So I'm like, hell yeah. He said, okay, I can make it happen. And then he dropped a number as an amount of money. And I said, deal. And then I told him, I said, I would have done it for free. And he almost pissed his pants. So he knew by then that he did a good deal by bringing us both together. And I mean, I think it was an interesting fight.
Yeah, it settled it. At least you guys got to fight at that point.
Yeah.
Apy Echteld.
Yeah.
You get along with him?
I always had a pretty decent understanding with him. Yeah. I mean, I heard. I mean, there's people that liked him and people that didn't like him. My understanding with him was okay.
Yeah. Your first tournament, like in one day, was Rings USA Hawaii, Tuli Kalapaga or Kaluapi and Tommy Sauer. You win. I mean, you go 1-1 there, and then you go into the Rings King of Kings 4-man qualifier. Which, dude, this is incredible. Surin Balachensky, who is a guy that used to submit Fedor.
Yeah.
You beat him by KO in the first round, and then you go on to submit Babalu Sobral. That's nuts.
Yeah, that was a fantastic win. I mean, Babalu, I mean, he was a badass guy as well. I mean, he had very good wins of very strong opponents, and I was like, but I mean, I was smoking, and when I qualified for the tournament, I just threw the packet of cigarettes away. I mean, I hardly ever got drunk. I mean, I've been drunk maybe 6 times in my life, even to today, until today. But I smoked cigarettes. So what I did is I threw away the cigarettes, didn't smoke for 1 year, because I didn't want anything to be an excuse to not be at my best. And I was at my best at that time. So I mean, I had a lot of respect for Babalu. And
wait. Let's just really quantify this. You finish a Sambo world champion, a guy that's got multiple wins over Fedor. And in that same night, you got an Olympic wrestler from Brazil that also is known for boxing. And you were in the ring at under 5 minutes total against two of the best guys in the world in one night.
Yeah, but that was an Achilles heel as well,
Yeah.
because of me finishing those fights really quick. It was the same with what's his name, Nagano, but I did it on the ground most of the time. But the thing is, you get so comfortable with that, things going your way, and there were certain fights. If I was as ready as I could be, things would happen kind of in slow motion. I would see people make mistakes. It's the same with Randy Couture. I just saw him made a mistake. I'm like, huh? Oh, okay. There was a certain an amount of calmness in me and I didn't have it all the fights. And I've never found why I did have that with certain fights, and I didn't have it with some fights. I couldn't, I don't know. Until this day, I don't understand why there was a big difference. I could go in a fight and then I would just oversee everything. And those were the good fights. And then I would feel really comfortable going into the next fight. And then I wouldn't have that oversight. And then kind of like, oh shit, where is it? And then like kind of battle myself. But in that tournament, I did everything I could. I really trained my ass off. And
Well, here, you say you train your ass off. Let's look at the results. You get those two fights. And then in February, Yoshihashi Yamamoto, you beat him by heel hook in 45 seconds. And then you got Randy Couture, and you beat him in guillotine in 56 seconds. At this time, he's the current UFC champion.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
It was nuts. I at that point, I was ranked, I think, number 6 in the world or so, number 7 in the world. So this was the time that my management should have done some really good negotiations. And then out of this came pride, but they should have put me in America.
For a rematch, one great payday. Great payday.
Yeah. But I think that was one of the biggest achievements in my life. Until this day, I'm really proud. I met Randy like 2 months ago. I bumped into him in Vegas at the airport. He's an amazing athlete with an amazing record, a fantastic family guy. The amount of respect and credit that I had back then, but still have for him. He's invited me to go to his gym soon. His son runs the gym, I believe. So, I'm going to check out the gym soon. The thing is, we've had these fights, and with some of these athletes, it's really crazy, because you fight some people. It's like just back in the day, you would there's these two egos and they get into an argument, and then they go outside, they settle it, and afterwards they drink a beer kind of thing. And with certain fighters, it's just the way it is, And it's the same with Babalu. A couple of years ago, he did a seminar in Belgium. Someone told me, I went there. He's like, there's like 60, 70 people on the mat. And we're talking about, and then he's explaining, hey, yeah, this is one of the guys that I lost my fight. And I'm like, why would you want to say that? You don't have to say it. We're just friends. Yeah, we had a fight. We just had a good fight. Nobody won. We both won. Who cares?
Yeah.
But he's still, so the amount of respect and acknowledgement that you can get from, that's really, really cool. It's really nice.
Yeah. You go on to face Nogueira in the finals. This might be the greatest heavyweight tournament ever, including the Pride Grand Prix.
Yeah, now you're gonna make me cry because I lost the tournament, huh?
Dude.
Fuck. And then what? And the funny thing is, and now I've seen, like on the internet, I've seen like such a easy way to escape out of that position. It's like a no-brainer. And I'm like, holy shit, can you imagine? Just crawling out of that submission like it's nothing. And then, actually making him submit because he's trying to submit me. I mean, that's the counter submission. That's, you know.
The Von Flu.
But
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you don't even have to move. Yeah.
I mean, how famous would I have been if I would have, you know, but
finished Nogueira?
Sorry?
If you finish Nogueira, Babalu, oh my God.
But I mean, I do have to give Nogueira a lot of credit because he had a pretty tough tournament. I mean, I like you said, I haven't been in the ring even 10 minutes, and I was in the final, and he had a
2
tougher
minutes.
So I mean, yeah, it was crazy, but it was fun. I mean, the thing is, back then Japan was kind of new, and you have these Brazilian guys and these Russians, and I mean, from everywhere, you know. I mean, it was really interesting how they brought together all these people, you know, and I mean, almost the same as in Pride. I mean, Don Fry, and I mean, you know, all these. I mean, Ken Shamrock, Frank Shamrock,
Gary Goodrich, your future opponent. Yeah. You know, you were sponsored by Gameness against Gary Goodrich.
Yeah.
Do you remember that or no?
Yeah.
So Gameness is Ed Clay. He owns the clinic that Joe Rogan always talks about in Tijuana, the stem cell clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's always stuck around, man. Yeah. And then I got to ask you this: Assuerio Silva. Was it a work?
Yeah.
Was it a work?
What shall I say, my friend? What shall I say?
You just said it. Good. I hope you got paid for that. Bas Rutten, he really had a lot to say about you, with your submissions and your leg lock game.
I mean, he was my example. I mean, I briefly after I trained with him a couple of times, he went to America, and I was really bummed out because he was so funny and always joking around. But I mean, a hard worker coming from some disappointment during his kickboxing, and people talking down to him, and then just lighting an internal fire that he had to prove himself, you know, and I mean, and then accomplishing what he was my example, and I would have wanted to, you know, overtake his, you know, like, of continue his thing. I touched it, but I didn't quite get there. I mean, Pancras, King of Pancras, UFC champion. I mean, he was my example, and it was very unfortunate for me that he left. On the other hand, I you know, time's like flying, and I should have looked him up and asked him to help me out in America with training and stuff. You know, there was so much more that I could have learned from him, and he was such a nice guy. So, you know, I think I didn't see that opportunity back then, and it was because I had a good relationship with him as well, and yeah, he's a wonderful guy, and I think he did good.
Dude, your career is they don't make men like you anymore, and I mean that's a fact. And fighters, like, even being able to hit 50 fights, I don't think you could really do that in the current day of mixed martial arts with how locked down it is with the rules set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my total fights is like 78 or something like that, or maybe even 80-ish with the kickboxing and everything. I mean, not everything has been, but but it's fine. You know, it's just coming from where I come from. It's just been an amazing journey, and I'm just very grateful for being born with the genes that I had. And I mean, it just felt like falling in the right place. I mean, from when I was young, I always thought that I would be an athlete. And you always dream about certain things. I do think if I look at my brother, that he professionalized more, taking better care of his body, physiotherapy.
You were his example, though. You were his example, and like you always looked out for him. That's a fact.
Well, I tried my best for sure,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think I did a pretty good job, and I think he learned what to do and exactly what not to do. So I'm very, very proud of him, of course. Yeah, what can I say? I believe it to be a success story. I mean, there's a lot of people that always said, yeah, aren't you jealous because Alistair, did a better job than or made more money? And I'm like, yeah,
So
but
what?
you know what? Yeah, but the thing is, I truly believe, and he acknowledges that I've been a contribute to his success, and of course he had to do it himself. But I mean, if there's someone looking over your shoulder that loves you the way I love him, being a big brother and trying to take care of certain stuff. And of course, you can't prevent everything, but I think I've done a pretty amazing job. And yeah, I'm just happy that he's financial independent now.
Good.
He's got his real estate, he's got his things, and yeah, I think that like I said, the parents divorced, single mom. I mean, it could have gone so many ways,
Yeah.
So
No. And you saw the other side. You
I
spent
have seen the other
a
side.
little time in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little time, but I've been to enough funerals, so
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't make you happy. And I mean, to be honest, saying that, aren't you jealous about your brother? I'm like, you know what? I've had fear of having to walk him to his grave, and for him to be standing on top of the mountain back, just a couple of years ago. I mean, who wouldn't want that for his brother or sister?
Of course. Because they're family.
Or for his kids. So I mean,
Good.
that's just the way it feels. So I think it's a fantastic thing.
Speaking of funerals, and we're wrapping up right now. Did you go to Hans Nijmen's funeral?
Yeah, I went there.
He was really respected amongst the fighters, the true fight community.
I mean, there's a lot of people that were. I mean, he teaches class fighting. I mean, he was a good guy. I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't here anymore that didn't deserve it, in my belief. And that's just to show how unfair life can be, and they should appreciate, every day, and then try to make wise choices, and don't get mixed up in shit that doesn't concern you, because life is hard enough as is, and just stay honest and then work. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of shortcuts in life, So I mean, just work, have a good work ethic. And I think, sometimes it's a struggle. I mean, I know what it is to be broke. I mean, I've know what it's been to injured. I mean, so, but if you have a good work ethic, I mean, no, you're not. You're maybe not becoming a millionaire, but you can make a decent amount of money.
Honest living.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to be proud of. I mean, everybody has to decide for themselves, but I think it's the best feeling ever if you just like you said, that tournament. I worked my fucking ass off back then, and then going back home with a check that was a good check. Dumb investments, but good check.
Fun investments. Yeah,
fun investment. Yeah, good memories. But I mean, the amount of proud that you are, that I don't think that's. I mean, the only thing that could be more proud is maybe fighting for your country or for your family, as in a military guy. I think they could be more proud, but I feel pretty good about myself back then, and yeah, bought a nice big present for my mom, could take care of my brother a little bit, so yeah, it was good.
All right, we're gonna end on this. This is just a rumor. I don't know if this is true or not. You fought Rodney Glunder, where he was very greased, and you just said, "Man, fuck this! I've already done this. I'm out of here."
Yeah.
I heard you guys fought in the street afterward. Is that true?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, what happened at that fight? I mean, of course, he's also one of the guys from Lucian Cabin. So
Yeah,
I mean, I've trained at Lucian Cabin. I know what they do. So my corner warned the ref before, check it out. And then I'm like, okay, so we get into this fight. And I mean, I take him down in like 15 seconds or so. I mean, I like crazy fast. And I'm just like, and I mean, he's like slippery as fuck. So I'm like grabbing his arm and like, and then I said to the ref, I said, what the fuck is this? I mean, so I stood up, I said, fuck this. And then I went to my corner and they're like, no, the kick is, I said, fuck him. And then he came to my corner and then, he started talking shit. So then I punched him in the face in the ring, after the fight because he talked shit in my face. So then, of course, everybody's jumping into the ring and, all the shit. And then they're like, yeah, they took us apart. And then, so then, what happened is they wanted to restart the fight. And they said, yeah, we even pay you extra money. And I said, yeah, okay, you know what? Okay, it's fine. Pat him down. We'll do the fight. And then he didn't want to fight anymore because of the punch that I gave him, when he started, when he came to my, that was, I don't know.
I'm surprised it ended there. I mean, I know the Overeem brothers.
Listen, I mean, if that fight would have continued, I would have, well, let's say I was highly motivated because I was fucking pissed. I was pissed.
Valentine, let me tell you something, brother. This is a very like what we just talked about. We're about 90 minutes in. Was a very small portion of your historic career. It's fucking crazy how much shit you were involved with, bro.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we should write a book.
Yeah. There's got to be a movie about the Dutch scene. Everybody says Japan. No, the real shit is in fucking Holland.
Well, I think what would really be really cool is just how things started. So like a movie about Dutch, about Holland, about Russia, about Japan, about America, about Brazil, and then like a Fast and Furious, like different episodes of how things started and then how it all comes together is like the grand finale. I think that would be really cool. But
here, would you say the one connecting thing, I mean, for the movie, not in real life, would be the supply of ecstasy coming from your country, flowing into Japan, flowing into Russia?
Well,
maybe.
I still have to work very hard for my money, but I
mean, the William Holeder trial.
Yeah.
Oh man, I read the transcripts. So fucking good, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, he came to the gym at Chris Doleman's every now and then, but I mean, it's the same as what's it, Dino Sorrell,
Yeah.
They both got life, never coming out. Well, not anytime soon anyway. And I mean, like Dino, we trained with Hans Nijmen. And I remember him saying, hey, listen, if you're done fighting, we need to talk. First, you're gonna pursue your career, but after that, we need to talk. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know who this guy is. Okay, he drives around with police scanners in his car, and I mean, a bulletproof car, and I mean, whatever. There's a bulletproof vest, but I'm like, maybe he's a cop or something. I don't know, And then afterwards, you find out all these, and you're like, holy fuck. And I mean, he could fight as well. I mean, he was a tough guy. I mean, it's not, he could take a punch. He didn't act childish if he got a good punch, And I'm like, holy shit, this guy could have had me sent wherever.
Yeah, I would have maybe not fought as hard as
heaven if necessary. If I would have known that in advance, I would have taken it more. But no, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's good shit.
Yeah, and the funny thing, I mean, if I look at now, there's these pieces of shit guys that have absolutely nothing, that talk shit, and they're like, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's still an ongoing thing. But I mean, the other day, someone ambushed me with pepper spray, and yeah. So I mean, you can imagine how that ended up, huh?
It
Him thinking,
sucks.
I'm going to pepper him and then sucker punch him. Of course, I had to
No,
defend myself. So
fuck.
yeah.
It doesn't stop. It does
No,
not
it doesn't.
stop.
But I'm becoming an old man now, huh?
That's good.
With
Hey,
gray
that's
hair and
life.
shit.
Hey, brother, if I work for a bare knuckle fighting championship, if you ever want to come to an event, dude, just please let me know. We got an open invite for you, and I'm hoping we extend ourselves into a Holland one day.
Okay.
Rotterdam.
Thanks for the invite, and I will come. I mean, I haven't been to one thus far, so I'm really interested in seeing what it's all about and seeing how the atmosphere is, and I can only imagine it's crazy,
It's good shit.
But yeah, and I've even seen fights that go the distance, huh, with these guys. They're like, moving around and went the distance. It was crazy.
Good shit. It's good shit. Valentine, man, like I said, it's a very small portion of your career. I mean, we just touched the surface of it, and it's legendary. And I really thank you and I appreciate your time, brother.
You're welcome. You're more than welcome. And be sure that I'm gonna take your invite and show up one day.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. All right, brother. Do your thing. Be good.
And then, okay.
Well, that was my favorite Overeem of the two, Valentine, actually. So joining me, Andy Campbell. Andy, you actually have been doing all of our social media with our clips and stuff like that. Why don't we give a little plug to your company?
So my main thing is Martial Mindset on Instagram. That's where I'm going to be posting pretty much all of my content going forward. And I'm really trying to grow the Martial Mindset page. So if you want to see any of my content, if you join me there on at Martial_mindset_, and you can see all of my stuff there.
Yeah. So like the issue that we have with our program is that it's so like pigeonholed, it's so niche that like the regular people that like do this and charge for it, it's like training them, but every single episode is another, like it's just too far of a gap for somebody that doesn't know mixed martial arts to come on and make content for us. So like somebody like you is incredibly valuable to us because you know the sport, you understand the history, and you like it. You like what we're doing.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, just so everybody can kind of understand where we're at, before Andy started helping us, we were probably at about 65,000 impressions a month between like all of our platforms. And now we're at about 125,000 a month. So he like more than doubled it just from the videos and the stuff that you've been clipping out. You've more than doubled our reach. Like we're going to be at like 1.5 million by the end of the year, but we're still growing.
Still growing. That's good. Yeah, so it's just really posting regular and consistent, being consistent with the content that we're posting, and you get good results in that manner.
Yeah, but you're also including video clips. Like if somebody mentions a seminar, you're actually finding the actual seminar and you're putting it in a clip. Like that's not easy.
Excellent. But that's the kind of thing that I enjoy doing as well, because I just love the history of martial arts. So whenever I can find a clip, from that's maybe been lost for a long time,
it's like
something like adding that into, especially because you guys have been talking about these seminars or these events. You can go and find the clip and you can add that as B-roll footage on the top of the clip. It's a good feeling,
Okay, so here's a little cookie for everybody. So the Jeff Coran interview, which is fantastic, listen. He talks about going to a Hickson seminar. That Hickson Gracie seminar was like 93, 94. It was in Chicago at Keller's Martial Arts. So around 2003, 2004, I went into that dojo because they had a couple guys that were fighting out of there for me at a location on the south side of Chicago called Bourbon Street. On his wall, there were pictures of him receiving a black belt from Rickson Gracie. Yes.
So Keller's martial arts.
Yes.
What type of, yeah.
He's a Hapkido guy. He's a Hapkido guy. So, all right. So I see the pictures of Rickson, and this is pre-tough one. And I say to him, you got a black belt from Rickson Gracie? And he goes, well, yes. And my response is, there's less than like 15 of those walking the planet. Yeah. I'm not going to say because Rickson is constantly there and they just don't meet his approval. It's just the guy's never there. I mean, I hate to kind of pull the wool out of, out of people's eyes. He's never in class. He doesn't teach. So when he and I had our conversation, he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I read Playboy magazine and I would bring him in to teach seminars, and he taught a couple seminars and he gave me a black belt. Now, they don't teach jiu-jitsu at this school today. Well, I mean, he's retired since then. He retired about a decade ago. But it appeared that there might be a couple Rickson black belts out there that Rickson's not honoring anymore.
Is that a case of, was it desperate times and desperate measures? Maybe Rickson was struggling to make it in the States, and
I would say he had a car payment and rent that needed to get paid. Yes. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that in martial arts in general. People giving out belts, so
yeah. It was like it was the Wild West back then. It really, really was. So this gentleman right here is, dude, Andy, you were friggin' killing it, bro, all the way from Scotland.
Thanks. Yeah. No, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be working for the Lytes Out podcast. It's amazing.
It's fun. Yeah, dude, it's a lot of fun. And
so much fun.
So we've done about 260 of these and we're not slowing down. Like you know what I mean? Like we're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And on some of the clips, Andy, you're now presenting them.
I've just started presenting some of the intros for some of the clips. Yeah. So how do you think it's going so far?
Well, here's my thing.
Yeah.
We got a decent audience. It's not a big audience, but they're us. They're one of us, and there's no fooling us.
No.
And in my opinion, I'd rather have it done right with a presentation than have people kind of wondering what the subject material is. And even if it means it eliminates, because I know there's like time constraints, but even if it means it eliminates like some new viewers, those new viewers that are turning out, they're probably not our audience anyway. I'd rather just do it right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think on Instagram, it needs to be a very short introduction. If we're doing one at all, it needs to be very quick, because the way it works is you only get maybe like 2 or 3 seconds to hook somebody on a clip before they scroll past. So it needs to be something that catches people's attention and keeps them watching. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's where you come in, where you kind of nail it real quick and then go to the interview. Otherwise, if they just see 2 people talking, they're probably going to keep scrolling. Yeah.
Exactly. And we can do longer introductions on YouTube. YouTube's a good platform, because by the time somebody comes to YouTube to watch you guys, they're already invested in the Lytes Out podcast. They're there to watch a full episode, an hour and a half or 2 hours. But Instagram's a slightly different format.
Okay, so on this one, dude, we had a ton of mafia stories. I mean, I don't think you've listened to this yet, but admits to a fake fight, but he doesn't admit to it. He just kind of smiles and nods. So that's
right.
That's good. It's good stuff. But also, like on a past interview, we got Art Jimerson's last interview ever, and in it, we asked about the Don the Dragon Wilson fight. So Don, what he did was he gave Art Jimerson like 10 grand, and was told that it was just an exhibition and it was going to be a fake fight, but it's not going to go anywhere. But then Don Wilson videotaped it, heavily edited it, and then put himself being interviewed in between the rounds and double-crossed Art Jimerson.
Really? Wow.
Dude, I'll give you the timestamp. It's amazing. Yes.
That could be so cool. Yeah, yeah. I love things like that, going back to guys like Don the Dragon Wilson and Benny the Jet Urquidez and all these characters for the olden days of kickboxing, you know? So
I agree. Reggie Warren also, I mean, I know he was a world champion boxer, fought Eric Paulson in a famous hair pulling match. I think we got him lined up as well. Maybe we'll do a Thursday drop because it's not going to take up too much time.
So Art Jimerson, was he ever a boxing champion, or was he close to being champion? Or?
He was a former champion, yes. Yes. I mean, there's a lot of belts out there. He definitely had a belt. He beat Lenny LaPaglia, which is, dude, it's phenomenal. Dude, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So Lenny punched himself out and allowed Jimerson just to wind up on him, hoping to kind of catch Jimerson on some of the wild punches. And Jimerson ended up knocking him out. It's a pretty cool fight. Pretty cool fight.
Yeah. Does video footage exist?
Yes. Yes. Including the Don the Dragon Wilson stuff. Yes.
Really? Still out there?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. Art's no longer here, but we got a little something for you, Don, But anyway, martial art, one more time. Let's plug your.
So on my Instagram, it's martial_mindset_.
Martial_mindset_. Okay.
And that's where you'll find all my stuff.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please go there, like, share, subscribe. I think we're all right. To close this out, and I know it's like if you're still listening here, you're probably a little mentally ill. There is an AI program called Wordly.ai. And what it does is, like, you and I will have a conversation, and let's just say you speak Portuguese. It'll translate everything I say to Portuguese and everything you say to me in English. The problem is it's the sub by 10-hour blocks for $950. So Eugenio Tadao, Ebenezer Braga, and Pele Landi have all agreed to come on. So if anybody's got an account over at wordly.ai, can spare a couple hours, I'd like to knock out some of these Brazilian legends.
So cool. So cool. Does it translate Scottish people as well?
I doubt that. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult accent. I don't think AI could figure that out.
I don't think so. No.
Anyway, Andy Campbell,
Yes,
all your hard work, man. Greatly appreciated, brother.
I'm looking forward to this next episode.
Like, share, subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.